You learn something new every day, but I've learnt the most important lesson I'm ever going to learn in my lifetime. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa. My name is Tom. Thank you very much for joining me, and this is my ranking of the 8 Harry Potter movies. If you guys haven't been here before, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that notifications bell so you never miss out on my take on all things movies. And this is take 46 of me trying to get this video to work, and it hasn't worked yet, but hopefully it's going to work this time. So first of all, before I even get into this list, I have to say what everybody has to say when they do a ranking video, and that is, of course, my list is going to look different to your list, and your list is probably going to look different to your neighbor's list. So make sure you leave your list down there in the comment section below and be respectful, because that's what movies are all about, sharing our different opinions. Yes, it's okay to have different opinions about movies. That being said, let's get into my ranking of the 8 Harry Potter films. Of course, I am not including the Fantastic Beasts movies for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that they're not really Harry Potter movies because they don't have Harry Potter in them. The other reason is that I think those movies are giant steaming piles of shit. So at number 8, we have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. Listen, I like all Harry Potter movies. There's not a Harry Potter movie that I think is a bad film. I have issues with some of them, and of course, you know, I have my favorites and my least favorites, and Deathly Hallows Part 1 just happens to be my least favorite, even though this film has some fantastic things in it. That opening scene with Severus Snape walking into Voldemort, and they've got the Council of Evil sitting there, and you have Charity Burbage, the Hogwarts professor, and Voldemort's, you know, got her there, and that whole, you know, when they're talking about moving Harry Potter and all that stuff is fantastic. I think my favorite line in this film comes from Mad-Eye Moody, which is, "If you've never taken Polyjuice Potion before, fair warning, tastes like goblin piss." I just think that overall, I don't find this movie particularly... I think the proper word I use to describe this movie is I get a little bored watching this film. I just, out of all the Harry Potter movies, this is the movie that I sort of enjoy and rewatch the least out of the 8. And I don't know how you guys feel. Again, leave your thoughts in the comment section below, but that's just my feeling on it. Again, I don't think it's a bad movie. I do like this movie, but it's my least favorite of the 8 Harry Potter films. So at number 7, we have the first Harry Potter movie, which is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or the Sorcerer's Stone, depending on where you live, depends on what it's called. Can't get through a video without someone flushing the fucking toilet. It's one of my fondest memories in life, is remembering seeing this movie on the big screen for the first time, because, you know, I'd read the Harry Potter book and then going to see the movie, and my mind just sort of like opened in two the first time I saw this film. It was just incredible. I have so many fond memories of watching this movie, and especially watching it that first time I ever saw it on the big screen with my family. Like, man, seeing Professor McGonagall, you know, turn into a cat and then turn back into herself. As a kid, it's like, how did she do that? I don't know. And then seeing Voldemort, I remember, like, for the longest time, I couldn't watch this movie after seeing it. I just used to just not watch this movie because I was so terrified of Voldemort on the back of stuttering Professor Quirrell's face. That terrified me as a kid, and if I'm honest, it still kind of scares me now. Number 6 on the list is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, fittingly, the 6th movie. Listen, again, I like this movie. I think it's a good film. I remember seeing this movie in the cinema, and I remember feeling a little let down by this movie. I remember walking out of the cinema and thinking, that was a little anticlimactic. That was a little, you know, it ends on a bummer note, obviously, because of what happens. Spoiler alert, Dumbledore dies. I just thought the emotion that Dumbledore's death, the drama around that entire scene, I felt like the level of drama and emotion that scene could have had, the emotional impact that scene should have made on me, I feel it didn't really do it for me like I wanted it to. And it's not like any of the performances in those moments were lackluster. Of course they weren't. Alan Rickman's fantastic. Michael Gambon as Dumbledore is amazing. But I just felt like this movie was kind of lackluster as far as emotional impact goes, and it has the most emotional stuff in it when you consider the death of Dumbledore. But this movie does also have some standout moments, a lot of them involving Professor Slughorn and the love potion stuff. And look, even with the love potion stuff, Ron and that chick, I don't know her name, the one who's like obsessed with him, that entire subplot in this film, and I don't know if it was in the books, I haven't read the 6th book, I think I got up to like the 3rd book and stopped, but I don't know if that's in the books, but it just sort of distracts from the main plot of the movie. But you do have Professor Slughorn, and my favorite moment in this movie, like as far as comedy goes, is when Harry takes that potion that gives him all the luck that he needs and will have all of his endeavors succeed. And he runs into Professor Slughorn as he's leaving, and Slughorn goes, "Harry, how did you get out of the castle?" "Oh, through the front door, sir." I love that. And then the Hagrid standing there with the giant dead spider, and, "My dear boy, how did you manage to kill it?" Oh my god, don't forget the pincers. So this movie does have its redeeming qualities to me, but it's not one of my favorite Harry Potter films. I thought the movie should have had more emotional impact on me than it did, but that's okay. Moving on to number 5. Number 5 introduced us to the wonderful Kenneth Branagh as the delightful Gilderoy Lockhart, and that is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. A couple of my favorite moments in this film is, of course, the duel between Gilderoy and Snape, and then you have the battle between Draco and Harry Potter. I love that. The tension around that scene, the drama in it, the banter back and forth between Harry and Draco and Lockhart and Snape was fantastic. Chamber of Secrets and Philosopher's Stone really do, for lack of a better term, have the most magic about them. You know, they just elicit such an emotion from you when you're watching them. You just have this sense of awe and wonder watching the first 2 movies. And listen, again, I love all the Harry Potter movies, but I feel like, you know, the level of magic about these films, it's a bit of a roller coaster. It's sort of up in some films and it just sort of dims down in other films. But there's something about Chamber of Secrets. Maybe it's Dobby. I don't know. I love Dobby. Dobby as a kid used to annoy me, like, a lot. I used to as a kid really dislike Dobby. I used to think it's so annoying, and maybe it's because I grew up, you know, with Jar Jar Binks, and Dobby was kind of like the Jar Jar Binks of Harry Potter as a kid to me, but now I love Dobby. I think Dobby's amazing. Harry Potter has given Dobby a sock. Dobby is a free elf. And then, of course, you have Jason Isaacs as Draco Malfoy's father. Let us hope that Mr. Potter will always be around to save the day. Let's move on to number 4, which is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. This is a movie that a lot of people, at least from what I've seen online and talking to people that I know, that this isn't a lot of people's favorite Harry Potter movie. A lot of people, this is their least favorite Harry Potter film. And this is a movie that for a long time I wasn't a big fan of. And over the last 6 months to a year, I've rewatched this movie a few times. And I've liked it more and more and more and more. And now I really like this movie to the point that now it's where it is on this list. And I feel like as far as emotional impact goes, this movie succeeds where Half-Blood Prince failed, in the fact that, you know, a significant character like Dumbledore, him dying in that moment, I should have been as impacted as I was, say, with the death of Mufasa in The Lion King. That's what you'd expect in that moment, but that's not how it happened. But the death of Sirius Black was something that really emotionally impacted me. And as I've rewatched this movie more and more, it still kind of hurts. Maybe because it's just Gary Oldman is so charming and just delightful. And probably because Prisoner of Azkaban is like fucking amazing. And that's where Sirius Black was introduced and we came to love that character. And Order of the Phoenix does a great job of building up the relationship between Harry Potter and Sirius Black. And I'm not saying that, you know, the relationship between Harry and Dumbledore wasn't built up fantastically throughout all the movies. Of course it was. But I don't know what it is, but something about Order of the Phoenix and the death of Sirius Black hits me harder than the execution of the Dumbledore death scene in Half-Blood Prince. Step away from my godson. Oh, we can't talk about Order of the Phoenix without talking about everybody's favorite Hogwarts professor, Dolores Umbridge. Wow. What a character, man. That's a character that I think universally, no one says Dolores Umbridge is my favorite Harry Potter character. And that's not to say that she's the worst Harry Potter character. It's to say they did their damn good job with the writing of this movie and the writing of that character, because that is a character that everybody loves to hate. We get so much joy out of watching her and just seething, oh, you're lying, Dolores, and one mustn't tell lies. Order of the Phoenix is just satisfying in that way, because Dolores Umbridge really does get her comeuppance, doesn't she? Like, she really does. And the comedy that comes out with that character as well. The fact that they do all these, like, sort of almost quick cut edits where you see Professor Filch adding more and more signs of rules up on the walls of Hogwarts. Listen, Order of the Phoenix, it was never one of my favorites when I was younger, but through rewatch after rewatch, I've come to really love this movie. And of course, let's talk about the fight between Dumbledore and Voldemort, finally seeing the two of the greatest wizards ever going at it. The drama behind it, the fight, listen, watching fights with wands is nowhere near as interesting or as exciting as fighting with lightsabers. Let's just be honest and call it what it is, okay? If they moved around a little more, maybe it would be a bit more interesting. But for somehow they managed to make the fight between Dumbledore and Voldemort interesting and fun and exciting, and they're not just standing there like this the whole time. And whenever I watch that scene, I want that scene to go on for eternity, because I love it so much. Speaking of things I love very much, number 3 is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? Listen, we all grew up with a crush on Hermione Granger, did we not? Like, who, those of us males that were born, or females, whatever floats your boat, different strokes for different folks. But those of us of a certain age, in our transformative years, growing up watching these movies, had a crush on Harry, on Hermione, on Harry? Whatever floats your boat. Growing up of a certain age, we all had a crush on Hermione Granger. She's like the best, right? I just remember watching Goblet of Fire, and I think I'm the same age as Emma Watson, and I think seeing her in that pink dress coming down the stairs, I felt like Harry or Ron or both of them in that moment, just... Hermione Granger, everybody's favorite sweetheart. And yes, this video is just an excuse for me to talk about how much I'm in love with Hermione Granger. Leave me alone. But again, talking about another Voldemort fight, you have Voldemort for the first time fully manifesting himself, and really this movie signified the return of Voldemort. And this movie also gave us the greatest line in any Harry Potter movie ever. I can touch you now. I think all the challenges for the Goblet of Fire, all exciting. Harry versus the dragon, you had the underwater challenge, all these different ones, and then, like I said, the Voldemort fight at the end, which was just, again, watching that movie for the first time on the big screen when I was younger blew my mind. And Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort, I can't imagine anybody else playing that part. Like, Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort is as synonymous as Robert Downey Jr. is with Tony Stark. Number 2 is what a lot of people, most people I find, would consider to be the best Harry Potter movie ever made, and that is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, or Azkaban, depending on where you live. And I don't really have a criticism to lay against this movie. This movie is a perfect film. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they, changed the director up for Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. You had Alfonso Cuarón come in and direct this movie, and he brought a different tone. He brought a different style to Prisoner of Azkaban as compared to the first 2 Harry Potter films. You have the introduction of Gary Oldman as Sirius Black. I almost said Sirius Snape. And then, of course, you have the introduction of my favorite Harry Potter, outside of Snape, my favorite Harry Potter professor, which is Remus Lupin. And David Thewlis, or however you pronounce his last name, when I find myself in times of trouble, Remus Lupin comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Eat. You'll feel better. This movie is just perfect. It just is. What more can I say about it? It's a perfect movie. Hermione punching Draco Malfoy in the face. The time travel stuff was awesome. Seeing it as a younger kid and thinking, how the hell did they do that? Because when you're younger, you think anything that happens in movies is, of course, real. And Harry Potter is real, just so everyone's aware. Harry Potter is real. But I love watching, Buckbeak. Who can forget about Buckbeak? Buckbeak is like the best thing ever. Why wasn't Buckbeak in more of the movies? He didn't die, right? I don't get why they didn't just bring him back. They should have. Bring Buckbeak back. Hashtag bring Buckbeak back. So there's only one more Harry Potter movie to go, and you've probably guessed what it is by now, but before Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War, we had Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 might be one of my favorite, maybe in my top 3 greatest, franchise ending films. The last film in a franchise or a saga. It's probably right up there with, say, Return of the Jedi for me, where Deathly Hallows Part 2 is everything you want Deathly Hallows Part 2 to be and more. It seems despite your exhaustive defensive strategies, you still have a bit of a security problem, Headmaster. The scope and scale of the movie, the drama, the wizarding, magical, fantastical action, Lord Voldemort awkwardly hugging Draco Malfoy, which makes for great gifs. Also, the monologue that Severus Snape gives at the beginning of the movie, which is my favorite Severus Snape monologue ever. Should anyone, student or staff, attempt to aid Mr. Potter, they will be treated in a manner consistent with the severity of their transgression. Furthermore, anyone found to have knowledge of these events who fails to come forward will be treated as equally guilty. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 is my favorite Harry Potter film. I love this movie. It's great. I actually have rewatched this movie twice this week. That's how much I love this movie. It just is. The death of Snape. The death of Snape, again, I'm harping on this Dumbledore thing in this video, and I really don't mean to, because I honestly don't hate the scene that much. I really don't hate the scene. It just didn't have the emotional impact that I was hoping it would have. But anyway, I'm sounding like a broken record. But anyway, the emotional impact of the death of Snape, arguably next to maybe Dobby and Hedwig, probably is up there with the most emotional moments in Harry Potter history. Because again, Snape, a character who, and I love the story of Severus Snape, and I love that throughout all of these 8 movies, Deathly Hallows managed to tie all of them together perfectly. I really do want to take a second just to talk about Alan Rickman, because him in these movies, he was always fantastic, and rewatching these movies recently in preparation for this video, I'm realizing the brilliance of that man as that character. It's phenomenal acting. It really is. Deathly Hallows Part 2 was the endgame before Endgame. It was the Rise of Skywalker. Well, not really. Not really. I like Rise of Skywalker, but you know what? Not even gonna go there. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. Make sure you leave your lists and your ranking of the Harry Potter movies in the comment section below. Feel free to include Fantastic Beasts if you want to, but if you ask me, they don't deserve to be anywhere near this list. So once again, thank you very much for watching this video, guys. My name is Tom. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that subscribe button, ring that notifications bell so that you never miss out on my take on all things movies, and I will see you guys next time.